This morning I received a very interesting letter from a friend of mine, and I just thought I'd read it out because it's from a New Brunswick woman in America. And I'm just going to read off what it says now because I think it's very, very powerful. Here is a woman who should run for president or prime minister. And read this letter to the editor. Ever notice how some people just seem to know how to write a letter? This one surely does. This was written by a Canadian woman, but from New Brunswick, but how it also applies to the US, UK, Australia, etc. This one packs a firm punch, and she should be Prime Minister. Written by a housewife in New Brunswick to her local newspaper, this lady is really ticked off. And I just think that we should listen to this. Are we fighting a war on terror, or aren't we? Was it, or was it not started by Islamic people who brought it to our shores on September the 11th, 2001, and have continually threatened to do so since? And that can apply to Britain, of course, as well. And I mean, our security service are saying the same thing. Were people from all over the world not brutally murdered that day in downtown Manhattan, across the Potomac, from the capital of the USA, and a field in Pennsylvania? Did nearly 3,000 men, women and children die a horrible, burning or crushing death that day, or didn't they? And I'm supposed to care that a few Taliban are claiming to be tortured by a justice system of the nations they came from and are fighting against a brutal insurgency. I'll start caring when Osama bin Laden turns himself in and repents for incinerating all those innocent people on 9/11. And I might add about London, and what about France, what about Spain and all those places, what about Bali, what about the embassies down in Kenya? I'll care about the Quran when the fanatics in the Middle East start caring about the Holy Bible, the mere belief of which is a crime punishable by beheading in Afghanistan and a number of other extreme Islamic nations. I'll care when these thugs tell the world they are sorry for hacking off Nick Berg's head, while Berg screams through his gurgling flash throat. Horrible to say, but there it is. That's what happened. But it only happened to Nick Berg, it's happened to a lot of other people. I'll care when the cowardly so-called insurgents in Afghanistan come out and fight like men instead of disrespecting their own religion and their manhood by hiding in mosques and behind women and children. I'll care when the mindless zealots who blow themselves up in search of nirvana care about the innocent children within range of their suicide bombs. I'll care when Canadian media and British media and US media stops pretending that their freedom of speech on stories is more important than the lives of the soldiers on the ground or the families waiting at home to hear about them when something happens. And I might also say, I also care when men of the Islamic religion also cheer our soldiers for defending this nation, who live here and get all the benefits of being here. In the meantime, when I hear a story about a Canadian soldier, or a British soldier, an American soldier, or an Australian soldier, roughing up an insurgent terrorist to obtain information, know this: I don't care. When I see a wounded terrorist get shot in the head when he is told not to move because he might be booby-trapped, you can take it to the bank. I don't care. When I hear that a prisoner who was issued a Quran and a prayer mat and fed special food that is paid for by my tax, dollars and pounds I might add, is complaining that his holy book is being mishandled, you can absolutely believe in your hearts, I don't care. And oh, by the way, I've noticed that sometimes it's spelled Koran, K-O-R-A-N, and other times Quran, Q-U-R-A-N. Well, Jimmy crack corn, you guessed it, I don't care. If you agree with this point of view, pass it on to all your email friends. Sooner or later, I'll get to the people responsible for this ridiculous behavior, and I'll add it in the West. If you don't agree, then by all means hit the delete button. Should you choose the latter, then please don't complain when more atrocities committed by radical Muslims happen here and in our great country, and in Britain, and in Australia, and in various parts of the world. Some people spend an entire lifetime wondering if they made a difference in the world, but the soldiers don't have that problem. I have another quote that I would like to add, and I hope you forward all this on. One last thought for the day. Only 5 defining forces have ever offered to die for you in the West. Yeshua or Jesus Christ, the British soldier, the Canadian soldier, the US soldier, and the Australian soldier. One died for your soul, the other 4 for your freedom. And we've had that happen on many, many occasions. You might want to pass this on, as many seem to forget all of them. Amen. And may I add also that we have been forced by trickery, lies, deceit, and quite frankly treachery into Europe by governments denying us the right and our voice to speak on this. And that's another thing that I feel very strongly about. And I think all of us should pass these messages on to as many people as possible. I couldn't care if you're for Europe or against Europe, but the treachery, the deceit, the lies that have carried on can mean that nobody is in favor of this monstrosity. How can you be in favor of an organization where 95% of the budget now of trillions cumulatively over 14 years is missing according to the auditors? When I say missing, they put the word unaccounted for. Now, when auditors check things off, the ticket off the journal, the ticket off the cash book, the ticket here, wherever the money went and wherever it's entered, if there's no entries, there's no what they call audit trail, then you know what? They can't sign the books off. So they have refused to sign the books off for 14 years. And we should take note of that and not allow our government to start paying more. We, in actual fact, are paying 40 million a day, 40 million pounds a day into Europe. And you know what, guys? 95% of it is missing, according to the auditors. Now, I don't know what you think, but that is horrible. Now, there's 127 countries paying money in like this. Incidentally, the 40 million amounts to 14 billion a year, and they just want to give another 4 billion. Now, wouldn't it be right for them to have said in Parliament, you know, before you spend another 4 billion, what about sorting out the 14 billion, which apparently 95% is unaccounted for? I mean, these are very brave men, these auditors. Where's the backing from our governments? They only need 5% because clearly 95% is missing. What are they doing with this? And then furthermore, what did we get for all this? Well, we trade in a deficit. They say, oh, we've got 60% of our trade going there. We're trading with a deficit with that country. Why? Because when he signed up, he signed off virtually our whole engineering industry. That's why we no longer build ships, and you couldn't get the government to put a couple of million in, but they put our whole national treasure a couple of times over into the banks. The country is bankrupt. You and I owe 50, 60,000 pounds each, and the Americans are even because they've got what we call entitlements and external debts, etc. Each American is now apparently, according to the experts, locked into £1 million each of debt. Dollars, sorry, it's dollars. That's a dollar figure. So it's about time we started to really say to like people like the Conservative Party, say, oh well, the horse is bolted now, the crooks have got away with the thing, let them keep all the goods. I think that is absolutely terrible, to allow the lies and deceits to continue. It just shows that they were there in the first place. And I say in the coming election, avoid voting for the Lib Lab Con group, because to me, they are crooks. To have brought this onto our people. They gave us a referendum and we voted for a trading bloc. That was it 50 years ago. And since then, we've had what we call mission creep, and now it's a whole damned empire, and they've lied about the Constitution being the treaty, which is a different thing. Everybody admits it who've read it, that it's the Constitution. It's only Brown who keeps on saying it's a different thing to justify his deceit, and the fact that Blair gave us twice an undertaking in Parliament at the dispatch box in answer to questions that we'd get a referendum, even if every nation turned it down. So what that lady says is true, and I've gone on to something else, because it is all part of the same sort of thing. Lies, deceit, and what we are doing is politically correct. Nobody may say it. That woman wrote an excellent letter as far as I'm concerned. Thank you very much.